okay, so on a table, finding slope and intercept on a table is pretty straightforward. Slope is going to be the change in the y values, so these are changing by how much?
2.
They're changing by 4. And these are changing by 5. They're increasing by 5 each time. So if I do the change in y over the change in x, that's going to be 4 over 5. Real quick before we continue on, will you please find out what the decimal for 4/5 is?
75%.
It's 0.8.
Go ahead.
Okay. We're gonna leave it in fraction form. I just want this for later, okay? All right, so this is the slope. Which one is slope? Y-intercept or rate of change?
Number that.
Which one is slope? Y-intercept or rate of change?
Rate of change.
Rate of change. So this is 4/5 or 0.8. Now we need to find the y-intercept. Now earlier in our definition, we said the y-intercept is where x is 0. So on your chart, x is 0. What is y?
4.
So this is where we find our y-intercept. Circle that heavily, put an arrow to it, and write that it's the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is 4. Now if we write our equation, it's y equals m is slope, which is rate of change, so 4/5 x plus 4. Now, if you do this in the calculator, so I want you guys to grab your calculators and clear them, please. Clear the memory. That way we don't have any information that we don't need in our calculator. All right, so now let's look at this and look for the same information but using our calculator. So press data, and I want you to put in your x values. And then I want you to put in your y values. Double check them and make sure you have the right ones on each list. Okay. Now from here, and it's several buttons all in a row. So we should be ready. You're going to press second data, the number 2, and then enter 3 times. Now you have this menu. This menu item, this is reviewing kind of from last week. We were using that menu to find whether it was linear or nonlinear. Now we're going to be looking for slope and intercept. So if you go scroll all the way down to the letters D and E. So for D, A equals 0.8. And for menu item E, B equals 4. So this 0.8 represents what?
The slope, right?
Slope. Yes. And the 4 represents what?
Y-intercept.
So if you can put this in the calculator and scroll down to these 2 menu items, this is how you can find slope and y-intercept also. Just in case you need that information. All right, now, you can also do that same thing with 2 points, but let's first look at it with the formula. Okay, so the formula for finding slope is y2 minus y1 over, like a fraction, x2 minus x1. Those little 2's and 1's just mean what position it's in. So like the second y minus the first y, the second x minus the first x. So if you look at your ordered pairs here, you're given 2. This is your first x and your first y, and this is your second x and your second y. How do I know which one's first and second? Well, this one is before this one. Okay? Now we can take those numbers and put them in place of y2, y1, x2, x1. So I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. So the second y is 13 minus the first y, 5. 13 minus 5 over the second x is 4. The first x is 2. 4 minus 2. Well, what is 13 minus 5?
It's 12.
8.
No.
4 minus 2 is 2. And what is 8 divided by 2?
4.
4. So that equals 4. And we just found what we called slope. So slope is 4. Now, what is the initial value? Well, do we have an ordered pair where x is equal to 0 here? No,
I don't think so.
we don't. We only have a 2 and a 4, right? Okay, so the only other way to find the initial value is to start a table using these points and move backwards to 0, okay? So we have, I'm going to make a small table over here, x and y. We need 0. We don't have 1. 2 has an output of what, though? 5. That's your first order pair, 2, 5. Now, our slope was increasing by 4. Okay? So if my input is 3, what's 5 plus 4? 9. And 9 plus 4 is 13. And if you look at your ordered pairs, 4 has an output of 13, so we know we are doing it correctly, right? Now, to get backwards, to move backwards, instead of adding 4, what do we need to do?
We need to do
Subtract 4. So what is 5 minus 4?
1.
So the input of 1 has an output of 1. So what is 1 minus 4? Negative 3. This is where our y-intercept is located because this is where x equals 0. That's why we worked backwards to 0 where x is. So our intercept is negative 3. That's our initial value. So how do I write my equation?
You put y equals 4x, right?
Yep.
And then you do minus 3.
So y equals 4x minus 3. The 4 comes from slope. The minus 3 comes from negative 3 is the initial value. That's our intercept. All right, now, looking at it on a graph. I already kind of went over how to look at it on a graph, but we'll do it again. The first question is, where is the y-intercept, or what is that y-intercept? So looking closely at our graph, this is the y-axis, this vertical number line here. It's crossing right here at what number?
0 and 5.
Yeah, at 0, 5. That's the ordered pair, but it is crossing at specifically 5. So the intercept is 5. And now we have to find the slope. So that means we need to find another ordered pair on that line. So we'll just follow it down. And since it's decreasing, we know that the slope is negative. Here's a point here at 1, 2. And so how far down was that? 3, down 3, and over 1. So the slope is negative 3 over 1, or just negative 3.
That is insane.
Okay, and so our equation,
Y equals negative 3x minus 5.
plus 5. The 5 is positive, so we're adding 5.
Sorry, it's plus.
All right.
How did you? So the 2 point. Oh, it's the 2 points is what I was question about. So you just like the formula is like you cross the line. No.
We were talking about this up here.
Yeah.
You just follow this formula. Second y minus the first y divided by the second x minus the first x. We'll go over a few of those in a little bit.
Do you have to put the percent first? Or so?
You have to put the second one first, yeah. All right, word problems. This is our last one. Ben put his daughter in daycare. It costs $50 to enroll her and $186 per week after that. Which one only happens once?
$50.
Yeah, this only happens once, so that's what we call our initial value. In other words, it's our y-intercept. If it only happens once, that's the y-intercept. Now, the one that repeats That's our slope, or our rate of change. That's the rate that he's gonna have to pay weekly. So the initial value, we're gonna put 50, the rate of change, 186, and then to set up the equation, y equals 186x plus 50.